everybody. Welcome back to Becoming Branches. My name's Adam Cook, and I've never been on this side of the table.
A little weird.
This is normally Dustin's side of the table. We got some very special guests with us. Guys, we've been going through the family series, and we've had a lot of awesome information kind of just in our brain. Look what it's done to my hair.
His hair is out of control. Like I said before, I hope it is coming across on the screen, because here in the studio, it is insane.
And what I kind of like to do, guys, if you're watching on YouTube, we are available also on Spotify. So if you're listening on Spotify, you don't get the joy. Yeah. But if you're watching on YouTube and you go back to our first episode, my hair is actually pretty short.
Yeah, it's come a long way.
Woo! It's fun. Who do we got today?
Yeah, so I cannot be more honored to have our guests on tonight. As we've been going through this family series, we have really tried to have some guest stars or guest appearances. We talked about that role of husband. We got to have Pastor Roger on. We talked about the role of wife, and we got to have our lovely wives on, and they were incredible. And tonight, as we talk about the role of parent, we have two amazing parents right here from Calvary Chapel. We have Barry and Angie Brown. So thank you both for being here.
Yes, thank you.
So I think it was, I don't know, maybe 2 years ago, a year and a half ago, that you guys put on the parenting clinic here at the church, and Alexandra and I both took that, and we were completely wowed. You guys had so much good information, and we thought, man, it would be great to have both of you on, expert parents who have walked with the Lord and have done their best to honor God through that role of parent. So we are excited to talk to you guys tonight. Before we dive into tonight's questions, just a reminder, our anchor verse for the series of family has been Isaiah 45:9. And in this scripture, he says, "Woe to those who strive with him who formed him," or strive against, because we believe that God's design is perfect. And when we live outside of that design, or the roles that God has put together to work together for his good, for his glory, and for our benefit, we often don't experience his best. And so tonight, when we look at the role of parents, we're going to ask you guys questions in an attempt to say, what is God's design for parenting, and how can we go about walking in that design? So, Angie and Barry, if you would, we know that you guys have grown children, but tell us about your kids. Who are they? How old are they? What are they doing nowadays?
Well, our oldest is Nathan, and real quick, it's been almost 4 years since we did the parenting thing.
Oh my goodness.
Man, you were listening.
Wow. Barry's also very witty, which I love. So,
but Nathan's 31. He attends here at Calvary Chapel. He grades standardized testing. Yeah. Right now he's doing the graduate entrance exam, and he is single, very well trained.
Hey,
okay. You know, we're always on the lookout for a potential future daughter-in-law.
There you go.
Brandon, our second son, he's 29. He's an associate pastor at First Baptist Church, Mentone. He is married to Elizabeth. They have 2 boys, Eloy and Elliot. And, 2 grandsons we're just thrilled about. Our daughter, Carissa, is deceased. She attended the Westside Church of the Nazarene and had her doctorate of physical therapy. And then Tyler, our youngest, he attends Southern Lakes Evangelical Free Church in Elkhorn, Wisconsin, with his wife, Zoe. And Tyler is a carpenter apprentice.
Okay,
nice.
So,
that's awesome. So 4 kids that you guys grew up in your household. So to kind of give our viewers an idea what it was like to grow up in the Brown family household, tell us a little bit about what that would have looked like. Like, what did you guys do as a family? What did you value as a family?
The few things that you would find in our home were laughter.
Needless to say.
Yes. This does not surprise me at all.
Music, fishing. We love to fish.
Nice.
Games and sports.
Okay.
So the kids were involved. So
any sport in particular, or were you guys kind of all over the place?
They tried various things, but we ended up limiting them because we were just running all over the place.
My dad did the same thing.
And they
$10 radius to the house, kids.
and they ended up choosing soccer. So we watched a lot of soccer games.
Very good. Very good. I ended up having to coach soccer, but Adam and I are both big football guys.
Yeah,
Like the Colts, and we keep hoping, we keep hoping that we're gonna get over that hump. Those Colts are gonna make it back to the playoffs. We'll see.
I played soccer when I was a kid, and it was way too much running for me. So I was on the team. Now get this, I was on a team called the Maroon Marauders. Yeah, I had my number on my little shirt, and I had no idea what I was doing on the field. And the coach was yelling soccer things at me.
C-ball, kickball.
Yeah. And so I played it one year. So I commend your kids for all sticking through that, because that is a tough sport, not only physically, but it's a tough sport to learn.
Well, the first few years, it's amoeba ball. All the kids are just running in the group together.
Yeah, that's where I was. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Good. Well, so hopefully viewers got a little taste of what it was like growing up in the Brown family household. So we're going to dive into some more good biblical questions as we look at this design. So we have been deep into Ephesians 5 when we've been looking at the role of husband and the role of wife. And if you keep going into Ephesians, in Ephesians 6, you see Paul start to talk about that role of parent and of child. So if we look at Ephesians 6, 1 through 4, I'm going to read a little bit. We actually start here with children, but it goes over into the father's parent role. It says, "Children, obey your parents in the Lord, for this is right. Honor your father and mother. This is the first commandment with a promise, that it may go well with you and that you may live long in the land. Fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline and instruction of the Lord." I think it's interesting that, really, as we read through the Bible, we see that role of discipline and instruction really belongs to both mom and dad. But it's interesting that Paul really points out fathers because of that next line, "Do not provoke your children to anger." So I think as dads, we struggle a little bit more with that nurturing type of role, which is why, again, God has designed this to work as a team and to work together. So as all of your children are grown now, but let's go back to when your kids were little. For our viewers out there, how can you describe how you went about in bringing up your kids in the discipline and instruction of the Lord, as Paul writes here in Ephesians 6?
One of the things that was important for us was time around the table, eating dinner. And our life was hectic. I work outside the home, kids were involved in soccer and multiple other things, and so it was always kind of a challenge to make that happen. Sometimes we were eating around the table at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night, but that was something that God really laid on Barry's heart, and so whatever time had happened, we ate around the table most nights, and that was really, I think,
kind of pull everything back in.
Important, because that's where a lot of good conversations take place in the family without the distractions of everything else. So that was a good time of instruction, of finding out what's going on in their lives at that particular day, and being able to guide and respond to it, sharing it with them.
Yeah. So did you ever have a difficult time? Because a lot of times you get around that table, right? And you ever had, when the kids were growing up, they had that one word answer, "How's school?" It was okay. Whatever. But you knew it was something deeper. Did you ever run into that? And if so, how did you kind of get them talking and pull them out of that?
Well, Carissa was a talker.
Yes.
So there were
she would
fill the empty space.
Hey, your brothers need to speak.
She actually kind of kept us abreast of what was going on with the boys. A lot of times we would hear it from her if we didn't hear it from them. So
they had to say it anyway.
Well say it anyway.
Oh, she's home already. Well, I guess you know about this. Okay.
Yeah, so
that's good. So Alexandra, this has been something that's been on her heart too. That we eat together as a family, we are around the table, and sometimes it's open conversations, but sometimes she kind of has some planned questions, like, what's something that made you sad today, or what's an area where you felt you did really good in something, or how did you show kindness to someone else today? So how did you guys kind of do that? Did you just kind of leave it open-ended? Did you sometimes have guided, kind of purposeful questions?
I don't remember that we ever had guided questions, but one of the things we tended to do, as well as the open conversation, was we would read The Bible.
That's
It would be our
awesome.
family devotion.
Is that
time.
part of dinner?
Yeah.
Like as we sat
Yeah.
down or as
Okay.
soon as we finished,
Okay.
because it was the one time we were all together
Sure.
during the day. So
Right.
that in itself would kind
But
of.
That's a
to
good
answer
idea.
the question.
That's a good idea. Because my wife and I also, you're right, the dinner table, and this obviously wasn't an issue when we were kids because I'm almost 40. But now you have tablets and cell phones and all this technology, and that's not allowed at my dinner table. And again, when we were kids, that they didn't exist. But now a lot of kids, when you go out to restaurants, you see
Right.
kids with earphones in, just and they're either going out with grandma and grandpa, and nobody's talking.
Right.
And I'm like, wow.
Yeah.
And so my kids knew from the time they could understand English, tablets down, phones off, screen off. We need eye contact. We need, how are you doing? I don't care about your social media. I don't care about, and I think that's important too.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah,
very much
and I
so.
think if you're out there listening and you're wondering, like, what are some of those easy, practical things I can do as a family to kind of regroup and bring my family back together? No technology at the table.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And sometimes kids are going to push back against that at first, but if you're consistent and you stay with it, eventually that just becomes the norm and they come around.
What if they're like, but I just want to finish this Becoming Branches episode, Dad?
That's the one exception.
Yeah.
If you're watching Becoming Branches, just kidding.
You can pause us.
We're here. We even went to. I mean, we had times where the attitudes and some things going on. It's like, all right, that's it.
Mhm.
And we would do electronic free weeks.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
that's
so there
great.
was no
No television,
Nintendo,
no
whatever. Yeah, it was done.
It's a
Yeah.
great reset for attitudes. It
Yeah,
really
absolutely.
is. It changes. And there are times where it's like, well, this is great. Maybe we'll go a few extra days.
I was just gonna ask. So maybe at the
Yeah.
beginning you'll have that resistance, but maybe by day 5 or 6, you're like, I don't even miss the Nintendo, or I don't even
Yeah.
miss the
Yeah.
TV.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
They immerse themselves in a book or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's actually a really great segue to our next question, because one thing that a lot of parents struggle with is discipline. Am I being too harsh? Am I not being harsh enough? And where's that middle ground? And so as we think about that role of discipline and how God's designed it, what have you found have been ways that you can honor God and benefit your children through discipline? Are there like some do's and don'ts that we should be aware of?
Well, we seriously considered the Mark Twain version.
Tie the kid up behind a horse.
No,
or-
when a boy turns 13, you put him in a barrel and feed him through the knothole.
Gotcha.
And when the boy turns 16, you plug the hole.
Gotcha.
So,
Gotcha.
I like where this is going.
but
Oh, that's fantastic.
just discipline. There were various things that we tried to apply. We went to parenting seminars and learned some things, but one of the most important, I think, was discipline versus punishment. The purpose of discipline is to correct bad behavior and instill the desired behavior that you want.
It's really training. If you think about discipline with sports,
Mhm.
Right.
it's learning how to do something well.
Mm-hmm.
Sure.
And so discipline in our children is not punishing them, it's teaching them to live well. It's a training.
Right.
Really, it's a biblical thing because God doesn't punish us to be a tyrant or to be evil. He does it for a purpose of
Yeah.
correction because He
Yes.
loves the child.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So
Whom the Lord loves, He disciplines, as in
Yeah.
a son in whom He delights. He
Exactly.
does it because He loves us.
And if He did not, you would not be one of His children.
Right.
So that's good stuff.
Secondly, make the discipline equal the crime. So, if a kid deliberately spills his glass of milk versus trying to stick a fork in the outlet,
Sure.
two different ends of the spectrum as far as seriousness.
hmm
So you make the discipline fit the crime. You don't want to overreact over the milk and underreact over the other.
Yeah.
So
No, that makes a lot of sense.
Because if you overreact during the milk when it's something much more serious, you've already reacted like you should have reacted.
right.
And then you might have to go more extreme, which is unnecessary.
Yes.
Or the kid's like, he never knows where you're at because you're already hitting the top over something
Yeah.
small. Correct?
Right.
Yeah.
And I think
Right.
you guys did a good job of communicating that to your children proactively. If I remember when I took the seminar, you talked about like the use of like if-then charts. Like if this happens, then this happens, and there are kind of different levels based on what happens.
Well, that was actually a Roger Laurie
Oh,
thing that we learned at that seminar as well, and have actually added to our notes. So
yeah.
that was a very ingenious way for them to raise their boys, and it's something that
Yeah.
Yeah.
we encourage. So.
Yeah, I think so. Especially if you're consistent with that, you're clear and consistent. I think are two of the main ingredients to help that training go well. As a child, I should understand kind of, yes, I know my parents love me, but I know the importance and the value of discipline, and I know that it's not going to get out of hand, and I know it's not going to leave me where a point where I don't even care. For that consistency and that equality that's good.
Yeah.
Well, guys, this is really, really good stuff. That's
Really
all
good.
the time we have on this episode. But lucky enough, we're going to keep these guys for a few more episodes. Stick with us. Thank you so much for joining us.